live. Had some weird stuff going on before I went live. For some reason, YouTube was buffering like hell, and it wasn't on my end. So hopefully the stream is good. Let me know in the comments that everything's looking good. Justin, what's up? But like for 10 minutes, I was trying to figure out why it was just straight up buffering on video when everything on my end was good. It was a little weird. So let some people get into the chat. How is everybody doing tonight? Audio and all that stuff good. Just want to make sure because technical difficulties before I started. So let me know in the chat if I'm coming across. Speedster, what's going on? You know, the tech world, yeah. Rosario, what states did the way with flat rate? California is the only one I know of. It's not actually gone from California. It is required by law for every hour they're there, they get paid twice minimum wage if they provide their own tools. So they basically mandated a minimum. So if you can still work flat rate in the state of California, though most shops don't, but they have to pay you double minimum wage for every hour you're there. Charles, what's up? Do you have any regrets being an automotive technician? You always have regrets no matter what. Most of my regrets, I wish I'd quit the last shop before I got fired. My path-wise, I think, was pretty good. I wish I had taken more diverse classes earlier in my career. Stuff like that. But, the old thought experiment of would you go back, if you could go back in time, with the knowledge you have now, what would you change? My answer is always nothing because, I've got a pretty good life. I wouldn't, if I changed certain parts of my life, I wouldn't have met my wife, wouldn't have had my kids, etc. So it's, would I still been an automotive tech? Yes. Positivity Incarnate, what's up? Northern Grit, Jamie, what's up? Positivity Incarnate, have you ever had an independent tool truck come to you guys' shop? What was your experience? I had, and I'm not sure if he's still alive. He's still out there. He stopped coming by the old shop, and unfortunately, we kind of gone through his truck, and he wasn't getting a lot of new stuff. So he may have just stopped coming by, though I heard from comments that he stopped coming by another shop. So he might have retired. He might have died. I'm not sure. We love the old guy. He came by, he carried, Milwaukee, gear wrench, weird stuff. Back in the day, Andrew, that now works for Royalty Auto Care, we would jokingly call it going on a treasure hunt when we got on his truck. Because there was so many weird, eccentric tools that he had bought and never sold. So we always went on there and just kind of deep dive into his truck to find those weird tools that might come in handy. He was really good. But I was kind of one of the last guys that was still buying from him. And it got to the point where I couldn't find anything to buy off of him. I didn't buy Milwaukee tools off of him because I'm sponsored by Milwaukee. I don't need sockets and wrenches and stuff. I didn't need, he didn't have anything new and cool on his truck. So, he kind of stopped coming by. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know whether SWK famous looks like you fixed the air conditioning, Scotty. Funny story. I had to put a new thermostat in. My house has 3 different air conditioning units for each floor, and the bottom floor is controlled by 1 AC unit. That thermostat just straight up died. So I had to put a new thermostat in to fix the AC. And this is the coldest room in this house. Period. End of story. Even with multiple servers running, 3 PCs running, it's still the coolest room in this house. So yes, I'm wearing a sweatshirt. Z Lambert 99. What's a good bulb to load test a circuit? Everything from a 916 bulb all the way up to a headlight bulb. I have harnesses built for testing with all those bulbs. You know, the cheapest, easiest way is, you know, couple, you know, splayed connectors on a, you know, look at your headlight bulb ones with, you know, connectors that you just plug in. Not drawing a blank on the part number, but you want to have different loads to test different circuits. You don't want to put a, you know, headlight bulb on a O2 sensor circuit. You know, you want to put a mid-size bulb on there. I took a bulb and spread out the little flaps and soldered a wire onto them from an old O2 sensor harness. And I plugged that into Honda's. It was set up for Honda O2 sensors, and I'd plug it in, turn the car on, the bulb lit up. I knew the heater circuit was good. So several bulbs, just based on how many amperage you need to test for. Because, you know, a test light, lights up, not much, you know, versus a headlight bulb that requires amps. So, pork chop fabrication found clean coolant and oil in a tractor this week. Oh, and overheating due to hydraulic fluid leaking on the radiator and silt building up on it. That was a fun call to the owner. Yeah, I bet it was. A guy back on IATN back in the day, one of his biggest things he mostly did air conditioning mobile, is cleaning out HVAC boxes with just covered in construction dust, because he worked outside and, you know, worked on construction equipment and field equipment. And it was surprising how much he did of that. Charles Johnson, what common 12-point axle sockets do you frequently use? So far, I have a 30 millimeter 12-point. I get a lot of Toyotas, but what about European CV axles? 27 is another common one. 32 as well, I think. Yeah, 27 for Volkswagens. Think that's most of the axle sockets. There's not a lot of 12 points out there anymore. Speedster, Speedy, Harbor Freight, yay or nay? Be selective with it, right? Yeah. The Icon stuff's usually pretty good, pretty decent. That Harbor Freight tools can be decent, can be crappy. And you have to remember something. They're a retailer. So just because a tool was good 6 months ago doesn't mean they didn't change manufacturers. Any which way you look at it. So you could go in, have good luck with XYZ from Harbor Freight, go in 6 months later and they change manufacturers, or you bought old stock, etc. So it can literally be different the next time you go buy it. Positivity Incarnate makes sense. In your opinion, what makes a tool truck worth shopping at versus Amazon? Service. Service is the only reason to buy off a tool truck. Period. There is no other good reason, other maybe financing, but when it comes down to it, their prices are ridiculous. But you pay for service. Broke tool, fix it, give me a new one. You know, that's the whole reason for the tool trucks to come to your shop every week so they can take care of you. Like I've talked about this in the past. If I know a tool's going to break often, like the mountain wrenches, you know, the Icon mountain wrenches, Easy Reds. After I lost that independent tool truck dealer I was talking about, because that's where I bought them from. Actually bought him at a previous shop, and he followed me to 2 other shops after that. But he, when he stopped coming by, I was breaking my 1214 pretty regularly, so I bought Matco's set. Significantly more money, but I knew I would be able to warranty it because I knew my Matco dealer would continue to be servicing me and I could get it warranted. That was the only reason I bought those. Literally, so I could hand them over to them and get warranted without having to try to figure out how to get Mountain to replace them. Because I used them so often, and I always already like having backup tools anyway, especially for something I use as often as mountain wrenches. Like I use them constantly. So I always want to make sure I have a backup. So, but yeah, he's working on starting an independent truck, trying to get others' thoughts. You're gonna be you're gonna buy tools from ISN, stuff like that. Service, sell your service, sell you're going to be around, sell the fact that you can, you know, get stuff that you can't get on the tool trucks as far as availability quickly. ISN has a warehouse here in Atlanta. I've been to it. So you're selling the service, I've got it here, handed to, give me the old one, I'll give you a new one. Jimmy, I don't know what 34 means. Oh, 34 millimeter. What's that used on? Charles, I buy Milwaukee from Cornwell when they offer free battery. If you buy from Cornwell with the deal, you'd only $6 more than buying from Amazon. Just an example. Absolutely worth it. That is worth it. And they are an authorized dealer, so you don't have to worry about warranty and stuff like that. T. Carillas, are all Snap-on tools lifetime warranty, no questions asked? No. Comfort grip handles are not warranted at all, period. I snapped the little plastic clip that holds the individual gauge to the handle, and he told me not warrantable. That's true, probably. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff like that would be considered normal wear and tear, so they wouldn't replace it. For context, it's the red 4-pack of gauges and handles. Yeah, I mean, they probably... SWK Famous, looking for jumbo cross feet. Eyeing the Sunex. Have anyone had any opinions? Sunex makes good stuff. For jumbo stuff, I would be a lot less concerned about buying Sunex at all. Andrew, I used to work at, had Sunex crow's feet and used them all the time for like O2 sensors and stuff like that all the time. So you should be good with Sunex. Brian McFarland. Hidey ho. SWK Famous. My SnapOn guy wore a pair of pliers. Bought 10 years from a different dealer. They were still usable, just showing wear. He made a judgment call. They might have got damaged after he took them. So, you know, it's pretty rare. You know, tool dealers give me much trouble on warranty stuff that's even questionable. If you buy a lot from them, they don't tend to question you. They just want to take care of you. Daniel BC, I saved a lot of money getting control rooms on Amazon. I got an AC deck. The driver's side was $700. The passenger side was $86. One control on Broadway from the dealer was like $250. Yeah, it happens. Control arms. Oh, you know, control arms, by the way. You got to be careful about Amazon. They have a lot of counterfeit parts on Amazon. That has been very well documented. Enoch, I just bought 2 air blower sets that had interchangeable heads, one with a short one with the long nozzles for $40 on clearance. Found the same from Cornwell for $80 plus tax. Yeah, that's stuff that I would definitely be buying on Amazon over the tool trucks unless I find it on a deal or something like that. You're not going to warranty it. If it breaks, you're going to throw it out and get it replaced. Daniel BC, have you ever had a customer's vehicle that was a mess? I've had many. Had one customer at a shop I used to work at. Literally the only place you could sit in the car was the driver's seat. Trash was piled up to the door jamb, the top of the door jamb, in the other 3 seats. Had people with cigarette butts all over the car. Food trash. I mean, I'm talking a significant amount. There was one guy's car that wasn't dirty per se. That car reeked of cigarettes. Like, he had to chain smoke 4 packs a day in that car. Like, I could not leave that car in the shop with the windows down, with just the driver's windows down, without stinking up the entire shop. And I smoke cigars. My clothes, test driving the car, I would stink like cigarettes. You know, like, it literally permeated my uniform. That car was nasty. I've had, you know, it's unfortunately part of the deal. I mean, I've had to send customers home to clean out their cars. You know, this car wasn't nasty, but it's a funny story. So I had to access, it was a BMW, and I had to access something in the back. And so I popped open the hatch, and full of booze. Full of booze bottles, brochures, etc. She was a liquor rep. At the old shop, we were next to a liquor store. And I mean, but like, there was bottles just rolling around back there. I mean, I could have stocked up on some stuff. Did not, but it was like, take a shop to an industry shop, you know, shop that the industry is famous for alcoholics, and it's full of booze. Not the best idea. Cornwell has the same for foam, everything for 81 set. Looking at an MX 900, is there any advantages to buying it off a truck versus auto parts store? It's almost the same cost. Really, realistically, the tool truck probably would be more responsive if there's a physical problem with the tool. You know, screen goes out, digitizer goes out, something actually physically wrong. They're generally going to be more responsive to getting it warrantied versus an auto parts store. People at the auto parts store don't really know how to deal with that kind of stuff. So if the price is about the same, I would buy it off the tool truck just for the ability to hand it to them and go, this don't work, you know, please get it fixed kind of thing. Charles Johnstone, almost all my sockets are Sonex. I believe they're from the same factory as Matco's ADVs. Yeah, they are. They're listed in Matco's software as manufactured by PPT, Professional Power Tools. They're Sonex's parent company, so they're probably rebadged Sonex for the most part. Positivity Incarnate, what would be your rough tier list for parts companies? Imagine Dorman isn't high on that list. No. Filters, Hummel Man, Hengst, they make some of a lot of the OEM filters, domestic and European. That's the top tier filter manufacturers, in my opinion. If I can get a man filter for a car, I will use it any day of the week. Other than actual OEM, TRW, Denso, Akabono, kind of drawing a blank on some other brands. Moog, bottom of the barrel, right there with Dorman. I've had literally nothing but problems with Moog parts for many years, like not fitting, either too big, too small, you know, having a grease fitting that literally you can't put the CV axle in after you press in the ball joint. So that's that. SKW, SKS bearings are usually good. Kind of about it, you know, pretty much every off-brand wheel bearing sucks. They don't last long. So okay, Daniel, you did the reviews and went to the AC Delco store. SWK famous. Pulse bought the DeWalt 20 volt ratchet last week. Honestly, I like it. Well, that's good. T Corrales on the top of Sonex and Apple's Apsol socket nut sockets. We have Sonex sockets from 2 all the way down up to 3 and 7/8. Sockets can take some beating. 40-inch pry bar plus a cheater pipe on a socket. Not cared. Yeah. Charles Johnstone. Yes, Matco charges a premium for their tools, even stuff made in Taiwan. It's part of the reason why I don't have a lot of ADV stuff. When I realized they were Taiwanese, rebranded. I didn't see the point of them. When I originally bought, like, my main go-to Torx set is ADV. Mine go back to when they were manufactured by Apex, not Sunex, and I've had them for years. And the whole reason I bought them was the T30 isn't 1/4 inch. CarQuest, Positive Incarnate, CarQuest, AC Delco, Ranchero, CarQuest parts. You know, CarQuest is part of Worldpac Advance Auto. It's branded CarQuest. It's crap. Just kind of like Advance Auto stuff or the in-house Worldpac parts crap. Which is revivable. 2005 Trailblazer or the 2022. My wife loved her Trailblazer EXT. Unfortunately, it got wrecked. Rich, I've come to the opinion that most of the time factory parts are for professional repairs. Parts store parts are for the DIY. Yeah. Especially if you're doing things like 336 warranty. It just makes no sense to put on a cheap part. I can't tell you. I can't, like, literally, the quality dropped considerably, but I've warranted, like, control arms. Honda control arms. If I put a OEM control arm on there, I never warranted it. If I put an aftermarket one, the bushings were torn, ball joint was loose, etc., within warranty of the old shop. 3 years, 36,000. Pricey OE because it's a better repair. If you're not warrantying, you're not looking, that car's never coming back to you then. What do you think about SnapOn buying out the company Precision Instrument to remove competition, but still slowly them to make the split beam torque wrench for a fraction of SnapOn? Enoch, SnapOn is a company that buys companies. The tool part of their business, the tool trucks and all that, is a very, very small part of their business. You know, they own John Bean, they own SnapOn, they do a lot of the OEM tool programs. They own Challenger lifts, they own Wheeltronics, Hoffman, etc. They are a parent company to a lot of companies. So they're going to do corporate stuff to do whatever that makes them money. But it's the pricing with SnapOn comes from their distribution system. SnapOn dealers do not buy directly from the SnapOn company. They buy them through the distributor of the SnapOn company. Literally, SnapOn sells it to their distribution facility, and they sell it to the SnapOn truck. So you've got, it's a 3-tiered system. So there's markup along the way. Every system makes money. That's, your part stores do the exact same thing. The DC buys the parts from whoever, marks it up to the store marks it up to you. Daniel, I went to a local junkyard. 08 Tahoe was a mess inside. Somebody spray painted the seats and ripped the door panels up. And a Tahoe was a new arrival. You never know what happened to a vehicle before it comes to a junkyard. Could have been some, do joyriding it, after he stole it or something. You never know. Charles, I purchased a Matco Index 488 BBA, and it's a huge OTF indexing pry bar. I love the thing. Works very well, people. You can do some weird stuff with that one. It's an OTC pry bar. Okay. Daniel BC, what part of your body do you lift a tire? I can't lift a truck tire. I roll a truck tire up my leg. I basically put my hand in the center part of it if I can. If not, I'll pull both sides of it, and I will physically roll it up my leg to my leg, and then I'll lift my leg and put it on. It's instinctive at this point. I never actually physically reach down and pick up a tire. It's always rolled up onto my leg and then put on. Learning 66, SnapOn does own Midtronics. Didn't know that. I didn't know that either. Midtronics, about Midtronics. No, it says Steve McShane owns Midtronics. I'm not logged in on LinkedIn to see everything, but it says Steve McShane owns Midtronics. So I don't think so. That's not much helpful. I mean, that's the dude apparently owns it, so I guess not. Brian McFarlane, when getting pads and rotors, is it wiser to get better quality brake pads or better quality rotors? Brake pads. You're much better off spending extra money for Akebono pads over spending the money for Akebono rotors. Now, better quality rotors will definitely increase the longevity of the brake job for pulsation and stuff like that. Cheaper rotors tend to, not be metallurgically very good, so it will help a brake job to do good quality rotors, but the best thing you can do for a brake job is do good quality brake pads. Chris Storback, any clever tools besides multimeter, amp clamp, or a test light to speed up locating parasitic draws? I have not tested it, or I don't own one yet, but Power Probe recently came out with a new tool that the tool actually measures the draw on the system. It becomes your battery. That might be something really cool to look at. But that's about the only thing I've seen so far, Chris. One of my favorite tools is Advantage Pro Scope, or not Scope, but it's a graphing multimeter. Because just plug it up to power. If you blow the fuse, it's a blade fuse. Is 30 or 50 milliamps the limit? Not anymore. Several vehicles will draw up to 80 milliamps at certain times, and that is within spec in the service information. So generally 30 to 50 milliamps is usually the limit, but certain models, certain vehicles do exceed that and is normal. So, learning 6, sorry, I just thought you just mentioned that. I must have been wrong. Okay. No, Wheeltronics is who I mentioned. They make lifts. They used to make Amco's lifts. Challenger now makes them. But they make tire equipment kind of stuff. Wheeltronics. Rich Tom, I had to remove semi-truck tires all the time. Need more than a half-inch, and I use a pry bar. Yeah, no, I usually used tire spoons when I was putting medium-duty truck tires on. I used a tire spoon because it's got a nice little bevel to it, and you just shove it under and kind of pry it up. No, Snap-on does not own Midtronics. They own Wheeltronics. I also roll truck tires on my leg too. You can also use a pry bar to install them, or his whole body is leveraged and lever up large tires too. Chris Dorbeck, I watched the monster truck tire install where they manipulated the jack while tilting wheel on stud. It sucks in the wheel to the hub. I've used that a few times with extra heavy wheels. Back when I was working on medium duty trucks, they had tire dollies, and I always wanted one of those. Did not own one, and the shop didn't either. Daniel BC, what's your opinion on converting rear drum brakes to discs? Generally, on a 2008 Silverado, unless you're doing something intensive, it's not really worth it. The brake bias on those trucks is heavily to the front. I put 200,000 miles or 240,000 miles on a Silverado truck I had, and I still never did the rear brakes. So unless you're towing or something like that, it's probably not worth it. Turboro, I'm starting as an express tech at a Honda dealership next week. Looks old. I wish they would had a CDK system and the oil hoses instead of getting oil in a jug. And I wish they had those floor ramp lifts. With as many oils are used nowadays, the oil hose systems are really expensive to put in. I mean, you're talking $10,000 per flavor. So a Honda dealership needs at least 5W20, 0W20, and SAE or 16 or whatever the hell it is. That's $30,000 for oil. So Chris Storback, thanks. I'll check out the Power Probe tool. I'm currently have 3 torn down meters with blown fuses because I'm a dummy. LOL. Yeah. I always stock fuses, which is not always easy to get the right ones. That's why I love the old Vantage Pro, because it just had a blade fuse in it. My old boss got me one, and I left it at the shop because it wasn't mine. So Positive Incarnate, I used a jack to get a wheel on with a truck when my back was hurting. I used to put drums on with a jack. I'd use a floor jack and put the drum on it and jack it up, line it up, like, because it was a heavy drums. I mean, you're talking medium duty trucks. I saw on the Snap-on website a new cordless soldering iron. Anyone get hands on with it? Probably a battery hog. It's any sort of heating type tool is going to be a battery hog. It's the way of the world. But no, I have not used it. Kenny R, advice on how not to keep misplacing your expensive sockets. Roll cart that has a specific place for that socket and put it back where it belongs when you're not using it. And this is advice I do not do. My sockets go in a magnet tray, and then I lose them and can't find them and grab my spare. But yeah, that's the best way to make sure you don't misplace sockets like that is don't put them on the cowl, don't put them on the car, put them back on your roll cart where they go. Because then it's right where you know where it is. It's easy to grab. You don't lose it. Chris Storback, it's AC season. Is there a wireless service port pressure tool you are aware of? No. Not that I know of. Daniel, if I had bad O2 sensors, which I have a chicken annoyed and I don't get it fixed, will that damage my the converter? 27 P2770 stuck lean. Yes, that will definitely cause you some problems there. Stuck lean is a bad thing for sure. It'll definitely cause detonation. It can cause may cause overheating of the cat, etc. So yeah, you should get that fixed. By the way, Tubro, good luck at the Honda dealership. Hopefully everything works out with you well. But you know, hopefully everything will. Kenny R, I got my first actual professional toolbox last week. SnapOn, of course. Well, congratulations. Hope you didn't go in a bunch of debt for it, or you can afford it. Tubro, I see they probably don't make enough revenue to upgrade their equipment. It's a laid-back dealership, not really busy, which will be better for learning. The older Honda have had new everything but busy. Cool. Yeah, no. Usually those kind of systems it's a weird deal with the oil company that's providing the oil. Basically, they pay for it over time, but if they're not doing enough volume, it's not worth it for the company to set it up for them because it's a huge upfront loan, basically. Midnight Rive. I'm an apprentice training at Land Rover Jaguar, and your videos are entertaining to listen to while I'm working. Love your content. Thank you very much. Good luck at Land Rover Jaguar. Learning 66. I always wanted a Vantage Pro from eBay. Now you say they had blade fuses. I think you finally talked me into one. Dude, they've been going nuts on Amazon, on eBay. Yeah, I wanted one. I finally got one. Only used it a handful of times because I really only wanted it for parasitic draws. And I gave it to Billy before I left, so I don't have it anymore because technically it was a shop tool. Cattle with a converter. Yeah. James Jones says, I'm doing great. How you doing? Yeah, congratulations, Turbo. Glad you found a place. Kenny R, that's cool. Trade-in means it's cheaper. Awesome. Eric Jana, what's the best way to remove old rusty exhaust nuts? A lot of heat. A lot of heat. Torch or inductive heater is generally about the only way you're going to get them off without breaking the exhaust studs, and that may still not happen. And the best way to get those out, I saw somebody posted the other day, copying a machine shop video, and I'm sitting there going, this is a ancient technique. This is nothing new. But you weld a nut where the stud broke onto the old stud, and between the heat and giving you a place to actually torque it, usually they come out. Motor City Mechanic just posted the other day, he failed at one because it just kept breaking. One of the last tools we got at the old shop was a welder for that reason. I wanted it specifically for exhaust, broken exhaust bolts and other bolts, and successfully removed three bolts on a LS engine for Craig. Yeah, just one converter from the pipe from GM without dealership markup. It's a $1,500 to $2,000. Charles Johnstone's old rusty exhaust bolt nuts. I've seen them where you just got to torch a hole through them. Yeah. Eric O is really good. I'm not as good as him with a torch. He can just whip off the nuts quick as crap, and not damage the studs if they're, usable. I'm not that good. I'll be honest. I have not had enough experience cutting nuts off. Obviously, I'm not in the Rust Belt, but yeah, heat is the best way. Midnight, I'm learning while I get paid hourly. That's awesome. Learn as much as you can. British cars, British cars are different in the fact that they're weirder than American cars, but they're still just cars. It's just you have to learn the ins and outs of those particular vehicles. Cool. We bought some new tools. Awesome. Which is better, a torch or a bolt heater? A torch. And when I say, Daniel, when I say a torch, I do not mean a propane torch or a map torch. I mean oxyacetylene. A map torch does not get hot enough, or does not get anywhere near as hot as a oxyacetylene. I would go, honestly, oxyacetylene, a inductive heater, and then a map torch, and then a propane torch. Greg asked, do those inductive heaters for bolts work good? Yes. They're not as good as a torch. They don't get them as hot, and the filament, or whatever you want to call it, is a consumable. So you have to understand that once the wire insulation starts degrading, you need to replace it, because if you don't, the tool will expire. It'll short the tool out. My first grab is a torch, but if you're in an area where you can't use it, or like you're, home user or something like that, an inductive heater most of the time will get the job done. The exception to that is anything in direct contact of aluminum. Anything in direct contact with aluminum's a great dissipator of heat. So, and it doesn't work on aluminum because, it's not conductive. It has to be ferrous. And, but if you're doing something right, like you're trying to heat a bolt on a aluminum control arm, the aluminum becomes a heat sink. Whereas with a torch, it just gets hot. So Jeremiah, recommendations on a good AC machine. My best recommendation on that is Robinair. I've had the best luck out of Robinair machines. The Mall machines, or RTS or whatever the old brand was, very problematic. We had those machines. They were constantly being repaired. Replaced them with Robinair machines. I think the only problem we had was keeping the filters in stock. The R1234YF machine was Robinair. Slow as crap, but it worked. Everything else, I've just had problems with. Every other manufacturer's tool I've had problems with if it wasn't a Robinair. Not saying they're the best. I'm saying they're the best I've used. Chris, tip from Rusty Bucket, Rust Bucket, Ohio. Weld on washer first, then nut, then truck is hard. Heat penetrate many 5/4s. Yeah, I was doing a simplified explanation of it, but yeah, you can weld a washer on, then weld a nut on there, and hit it with rust penetrant, and then try to remove it. The video I was talking about was welding a washer on there, but yeah. Daniel, you see there's this thing on eBay you can get that there's a plate the shape of the head, so you can just put it in a nut. Yeah, I saw that video too. That's a lot of money for a nut guide, honestly. The nuts are probably theirs that you have to buy. Literally all you got to do is hold it on there, weld it on, and you're done. It's really not that hard. I just put them in a pair of locking vice grips, put it up to the head, held it with my thumb, went in like this, and then started, circling around to make sure the nut was fully penetrated. It's really pretty simple. It's just the biggest thing you got to do is get enough heat into the stud itself. Chewy, do you still recommend Craftsman? I've never recommended Craftsman. Yeah, you can buy Craftsman tools at Lowe's. No, I do not recommend Craftsman. On the used tool market, they went through multiple manufacturers, so you don't know unless you can figure out where it came from. You don't know who made it. The quality varied considerably, and I'm not even sure who's making them nowadays. Craftsman for me is total avoid tool. Gear wrench is better, Astro pneumatic, Sunex, etc. And like I said, used tools, you don't know what you're going to get. They might be, I own several wrenches from back in the day, the 80s. Yeah, there was probably made by a SK when they weren't sucking. Because SK's quality went like this, depending on who owned them. Chris Storback, any tips for dealing with younger know-it-all type techs that clearly don't? Dunning-Kruger effect. Don't want to harm their self-esteem, but the attitude is self-limiting as they are hopeless. It's hard. Anybody that thinks they know more than they do, it's hard to show them the light. You just have to keep showing them the error of their ways, what's wrong, what they're not seeing. I've had many techs that got hard-headed, and when I'm giving them advice on diagnosing a car, I don't always, like, sometimes I'll be like, you really need to check this. And, kind of giving them the direction directly to what really probably is wrong. Other times I point them in a direction that is more general. Well, have you checked grounds? Have you checked you've got full 12 volts to the thing? You just have to give them evidence that they're wrong, and give them evidence that is hard to dispute that they're wrong. It's not foolproof for sure. I've had many techs where I literally said, did you check this? Yeah. No, it's good. You sure? Yes. go check it because they can't figure it out. Go check it myself, and got no ground. Literally prove that they didn't check for ground. So yeah, it's difficult with any. It doesn't matter if they're young. Anybody that has the know-it-all is going to not want to accept criticism. Daniel, when I repaint my truck, how should I repair the hole in the roof? Because when I got the truck, it came with Optimum rocket cab roof lights. Patch panel and welder. If you want to keep that truck, patch panels and welders, and actually replace the metal, and then properly treat the metal so it doesn't rust, etc., etc. But I ain't no body man. That's outside my per se. Greg, when you weld a nut on studs, do you disconnect the battery to protect electronic units? Yes, and I ground as close as I can to where I'm welding. It's probably going to be fine, but I'd rather not weld, and have it backfeed to an ECM, especially when you're welding on a engine block or something like that. So it's better just to disconnect the battery so the ground is not connected to the battery and has no way of getting back. Quick wrench tool junkie here in the Northwest. You have to be good with a torch. I'm good with a torch. Cutting nuts off is not something I have enough experience with to be really precise with it. I can cut nuts off. I may not be as clean and fast as Eric O. I may have to clean up the threads, but I don't do it enough. Jew, there's a promo going on now. If you guys live near an O'Reilly's Auto, free Maximus with a purchase of 100 TPMS. There's good quality, in my opinion. It can program those cars. Okay. Midnight, as a young tech, 22, I've always want to be the best at my job, but there's our days I do respond slower. You mean you're human? It's part of life. Motivation webs and flows. That's life. You're gonna have days where you're just not feeling it. There's days where you gotta just push through it. Believe me. That's nothing unique. It just is. Charles Johnson, my coworker, said he wasn't able to remove this bolt for a rear shock in a Ford Fiesta. I sneaked in a Sunex 12 millimeter Sunex swivel, gave it the beans with compact 3/8. My socket was stuck. That sucks. Got my half-inch long reducer, broke the torque, and got the mirror to inspect. It was welded in place. The bolts came in from the bottom, and my pocket was stuck. I had to hit it off. It was good. Yeah, that's funny. Chewy, any ideas for those wanting to learn bodywork? Does it pay more than auto mechanics and techs, school in person, online? Auto body is something you're going to have an instructor. So definitely in person. Does it pay more than auto repair? Probably not for anybody but the painter. Painters is usually the people that make the most money in a shop. But I'm not super familiar with body shop work. But a good panel fitter makes good money, but I don't know comparatively. But the painter is the guy that usually makes the most money as far as in a shop. But yeah, that's definitely something you need in person training, because it literally is precision work. If you screw up mounting a panel on a car, it will be noticed. Now I have trust issues, Charles, and I bet. Dirty Dan Racing. Need advice as a working shop foreman on flat rate. How do you clone yourself to be in 8 places at once and still make money? It can be hard. One of the sucky parts about the old shop is I went from doing a lot of teaching young technicians, which was time consuming, but very, very rewarding, to they hired much more experienced technicians that I had to go in and fix what was really messed up. So it was rarely, helping a technician, give him a direction. It became more, oh crap, how do we get out of this? And making decisions and dealing with consequences of that kind of stuff. So you need to, first off, let's talk about your work. Do not let yourself be pulled off before you get to a good stopping point on your work. When you're working on, torquing a camshaft down, if somebody comes up, I need help right now, give me a minute to finish torquing all this down so when you get back to your work where you're at. So you don't have to go back and recheck torque on all those bolts when you're halfway through them. Head gasket, same thing. Finish the torque sequence on the entire head before you stop to go help them. Now, when it comes to having to deal with multiple problems, that's just part of the issue. You're just going to have to, one, you have to stop taking over, give advice rather than taking command and doing it for them. You need to be pointing them in a good direction. Look at what they've got going on and point them in a good direction. And if they can't get it from there, then maybe you take it over as far as diagnosing it for them or fixing that problem. Obviously, if there's a big problem that, they're not qualified to deal with, broken bolts like we were talking about a minute ago, that's when you take over. But you have to kind of prioritize how much involvement you're going to have with each individual problem. How serious is this problem, and prioritize it. If they're struggling with a diagnostic, go in, look at what they've got going on, give them a good direction, give them several steps they can take by themselves, and don't, okay, you need to do this, this, and this, and hopefully that'll diagnose it. Go, I need you to do this test, this test, this test, this test. You know how to do these tests? And once you've done those, come see me with those results, and then we'll make a plan from there. So, you gotta limit how much, it sounds bad, but how much effort you put into each problem. Because the more, this is not an age thing, so nobody take any offense to it, but people are going to take advantage of you doing their job for them. This is not picking on anybody specific. People are people. And Chris, I'll get to your question in a minute. So you got to prioritize how far you're going to go with each problem and prioritize it, and you get back to work, and you just have to minimize how much work you have to do on their cars because they will take advantage of you. They're very small holes, Daniel. You could be able, if it's a roof and you can get a copper spoon back there, you can just weld the hole shut carefully, but it's still a welder. Chris, if you and Erico had a challenge in being a better tech, who would win? Is rust involved? That's an important delineator. If rust is heavily involved, Erico would win, no problem as far as fixing a car. Honestly, if it came down to a Southern car, I bet I would probably be neck and neck with him. Diagnostics, probably neck and neck. He might be a little better than me. But rust, he'd probably kick my ass. Let's be honest. If rust is involved, he'd probably kick my butt. Aspire, hello. I assume you mean rear shock. Raymond Lopez just got from work. What did I miss? Welding studs that are broken. Me getting compared against Erico. Oh, dang, they almost came out. Damn, that sucks. Easy E, what percentage of hourly rate should flat rate mechanic make at a dealership with 20 years experience? Percentage of door rate really isn't a thing anymore, in my opinion, because door rates can be ridiculous and not even steady. I mean, you know, one of the big things with management groups is having like multiple door rates. So if it's diagnostic, it's really, really high. If it's maintenance, really, really low. If it's this kind of service, it's this price. If it's that kind of service, it's that price. But, you know, a really good technician with 20 years experience should be hitting on the door of $100K a year. So MR2 guy, man, I feel you on that taking it over comment. I was in a class at WorldPack STX Expo and they said the same thing, and I'm super guilty of constantly doing that because I don't want shit done wrong or slow. I had that exact problem. I've taken over many of a job without taking any of the hours from the technician, but I'm guilty of that too. The flat rate mind just goes, I need to figure this out, get this done so I can get back to my car. And you start getting into those cars and it takes you time. You know, it's a hard habit to break. Yes. Yeah, that flat rate mentality, you know, just go. Okay, I need to figure this out so he can get back to work. I can get back to work. Go. Okay, it's this problem. Write it up for this. Get back. And instead of, he doesn't learn much, you know, they don't learn much. And, you know, because you're going fast. You're not sitting there explaining to them what they're doing. They're not really learning at that point, even if they didn't want you to take over the car. If they, you know, that's one of the big things. Just lighten it up. So yeah, you gotta, if you kind of take over, explain everything you're doing to them so they can use it as a learning experience. But yeah, it's so easy for an experienced technician that's a shop foreman position just to take over. You know, just if you're going to take over, slow down, explain everything you're doing, why you're doing it, help them learn. Do you want to realize all the newer GM vehicles are going to e-Torx and Torx? I already know that. I have a 2020. Oh, just lighten it up. Charles Johnstone's, are stubby hyper steps worth it? I have regular hyper steps. Do you think stubby drill bits are worth it? I only need stubbies like twice in the last 4 months. Probably worth it. You don't need stubbies often, but when you need them, you really need them. To the point I have a stubby that is cut down because I need it even shorter. So yeah. Aspire, our first school buses with AC are due to arrive this month. I haven't serviced AC in over a decade. Well, dang. The sump pump guy, any experience with right tools? Seems like a good Snap-on alternative. They are good. Chris, for the last 30 years, the status quo is low takes make 12 to 13% overall sales and good techs at 15 to 17. Yeah, but you said overall sales. So yeah, that's a little different than door rate. Needs to be more, but man, overhead is just growing and growing. It is. It just is. You know, side rant. And there was actually a post about this the other day in Change the Industry. And it was a post about watching the Change the Industry podcast. And a guy made a comment that posted it that he thought shop technicians would be much better team members if they understood business. Most people do not understand business, period. They just do not. You know, I tell a story years ago when I had my shop. You know, girl came in, great customers. You know, they were great customers, and she was paying for her husband's truck. And, you know, my door rate at the time was $80 an hour, which was higher than anybody else in the city. But she goes, man, I wish my husband made $80 an hour. I was like, so do I. She was an accountant and she doesn't understand business. Things like building overhead, et cetera, et cetera. And a shop owner just ripped on him for, no, we don't need to teach technicians business. They don't need to know that because, you know, one, I disagree 100%. Certain decisions are easy to understand if you understand business. When you actually understand business, certain decisions are like, oh yeah, that makes sense for a business to do that. But, you know, just to say no, keep technicians stupid was just stupid to me. It's like, literally, no, they don't need to know our secrets because then we'll figure out we're screwing them, is how it kind of came across to me. I know side ramp, but, you know, it was just something that irked me. Raymond, breaking bolts is not fun. We charge customers extra. Yes, always. Quick wrench tool junkie, a lot of Torx Plus undo Fords now. Yeah, they're all going. It's always fun when patents run out and they have to design new tools and do new fasteners, isn't it? Pork chop fabrication, good line wrenches, Snap-on. I honestly haven't found anything any better than Snap-on. Just haven't. They're relatively thin. They grab hold. They just work. Every other kind of line wrench I've had problems with. Daniel BC saw a video on YouTube. Some GM vehicles, you can put the electronic parking brake and service mode either by instrument cluster settings or the radio center. There's several companies that do that. Ford, you can't do it with certain Ford vehicles. You can't do it with a scan tool. You can only do it with the vehicle itself. It's good? Is this good for the company? Yeah. You know, if you understand business and you see decisions and you go, oh, I understand why you're doing this. Chris, our overhead is 50 to 70K. This was never understood when I was a tech. Thought shops ripping off the public for a long time. Yeah, no, I mean, people really don't understand that. They don't understand overhead, you know, at all. You know, show the average person out there, like 90% of the population, hell, probably 80% of shop owners, show them a P&L and they won't understand it. Yeah, no, I mean, it's always funny when people really don't understand how a business runs. It's crazy that, you know, but yeah, no, I think it would be good for everybody involved if employees understood how businesses run, because they would understand what goes into running a business, the costs involved, etc. They would understand a lot of things. But, you know, there's unfortunately shop owners that want to keep techs stupid because they think if they learn more, they'll go and do their own thing or go somewhere else. Enoch, what do you think about getting a hoist and other equipment in your own home and doing all cash business at your home? No tax, no customer, and no income take for me. It's illegal. It's illegal. It's a huge liability for your home. If you own the home and something happens to that vehicle that was worked on by you, you know, let's say typical circumstances, you know, buddy and his, you know, dude and his buddy drive your car to your house to go get it worked on. Buddy picks him up. They go home, come back. They drive the car away from you after paying you. 2 miles down the road, wheel falls off. They run into a school bus, you know, et cetera, et cetera. They have, you know, they have a witness that said you worked on their car. That means they can go after everything you own, including your home. So it's not a very good idea, especially in this litigious society. It's a huge liability, man. Sorry, man. Sorry. I mean, it seems like a good idea, but anything goes wrong, you're screwed. Best blackout videos. What's overhead? The cost of opening the doors. The cost of rent or mortgage for the shop. All data subscription. Lights. Electricity. Insurance. Payroll taxes. Workman comp insurance. All that stuff adds up a lot. You know, people don't realize how much an employer pays to have an employee. You know, workman comp is 100% paid for by the employee or the employer. It gets really, you know, crazy sometimes, especially depending on the area you in. You know, you figure you have to have insurance for any employee that drives a car that's in your shop. And I've seen many cars get wrecked by getting hit by somebody else, hitting somebody else, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we had 3 porters wreck cars at the old shop, and it was their fault. One happened in front of the shop. So yeah, it's it's expensive to run a shop. Greg, you put a lot of money out before you get paid with your own shop. Yes. The old adage, if you want to make a small fortune in auto repair, start with a large fortune. It's how it works. I mean, you figure you have to keep buying equipment. Every 2-3 years you have to buy a new scan tool, even if you're just using a SnapOn launch, etc. The cycle nowadays is, at most you might get 4 years out of a scan tool before it's no longer supported. That's if the tool itself actually lasts that long. And it's just getting, technology going the way it is, there's more and more costs that keep adding up. Daniel, what's your opinion on doing an oil change, putting a hole in the oil filter so it doesn't make a mess? It's fine. Especially for a do-it-yourselfer that doesn't have to sit there and wait for it to drain. It does fine. I generally don't. I crack it loose, let it drain for whatever is going to come out, then spin it off, but doesn't do any harm. Edoc, in my former college, had a friend that did car repair in his house. Garage, no hoist in the house. No one complained until his customer's cars were blocking the whole street. LOL. Yeah, no. That's why I wish scan tools were just lease programs. They should be. Raymond Lopez, yes, it is experience own shop. Includes send text at seminars. Chris, the fun part, at least near me, is there's a huge demand and little supply. Therefore, rates follow. Economics sucks for motorists. Yeah, supply and demand, baby. It I mean, that's a basic business principle, and it's taught in high school economics, and people still don't even understand that concept. They don't understand simple supply and demand. The same former college last shop, he did engine and transmission removal all day, every day. His boss was swinging the cart for parts. When he left 2 weeks later, a cop showed up there because stolen cars. Yeah, he was working at a shop. Expense are meant expensive, yeah. Daniel, I believe ABS pumps are so expensive because they produce a crap ton of pressure, and along with the module, they're kind of precision pieces of equipment. Yeah, when he worked there, he was told the boss, "I saw nothing but move the cars to back or cops will see." Jeez. Chris Dorback, also text want 60 near me and B-Tech settle for 20 or 30. Unbelievable gap from a True Tech to a basic B-Tech parts changer. Yeah, part of that issue is B-Techs rarely know their value. They don't understand, I mean, let's be honest. a B Tech hanging parts all day is probably going to make a shop a lot more money than an A Tech. Now, A Tech's probably going to have less problems, be able to diagnose the harder things, but, you know, they rarely know their value. A tech I used to work at argued with me that a tech would never make over $100,000. Argued with me that a tech would never make over $100,000. And, you know, I was making more than that. And, you know, I made that before I was a shop foreman. So, you know, he didn't know his worth. He didn't see his worth. And he wasn't a B Tech, by the way. Was not a B Tech. He was a very decent A Tech. Not probably top tier, but definitely a good A Tech. Good at parts replacement, good at diagnostics. He was not making enough at the old shop, and he didn't know his worth. James Jones, taking some training for DSO here shortly. What's the most important thing I should focus on? What's relevant to you? What's relevant to what you are working on? You know, if they focus a bunch on secondary ignition and you don't see cars with plug wires, it's hard to test secondary ignition on a coil-on plug without a coil-on plug adapter. And that's not even that good of a waveform in most cases because of shielding. Focus on what's important for what you deal with. You know, if you're dealing with communication problems, focus heavily on communication problems. If you do deal with secondary ignition, there's a ton of really good information you can get from secondary ignition. If you have the ability to test secondary ignition with coil-on plug, i.e. extensions and stuff like that, really useful. But yeah, focus on the stuff that is relevant to what you do. You know, if you're not going to be doing, if you don't have a in-cylinder, pressure tester, or, if you don't have a pressure transducer to do, relative compression and running compression and all that with a pressure transducer, wouldn't focus on it. Focus on the stuff you're going to use the tool for, because that's going to be the most relevant for you. And then as you grow as a technician, you can learn the other stuff. Best blackout video. So my employer says saves them money to make us bi-weekly, only 7 employees. How much money do you think I've saved? I'd rather be weekly. That's some BS, because they can pay you less. Look at bi-weekly. There's 52 weeks in a year. That's why they pay you bi-weekly. It's they can actually pay you less. But anyway, yeah, and by the way, I've never actually worked at a shop that paid bi-weekly. Every shop I've ever worked at paid weekly. So, Enoch, there's a parts company selling radiators in Canada that puts candy tape to the box on every order. Love working on rads and condensers. Yeah, we have a company down here, and I hate using their products. And the old shop manager loved them. Oh, they're always great. They're always perfect. They always install great. And like 4 in a row didn't fit at all. We're completely wrong. Not even close to right. And he's like, oh, there's... No. Because that was his go-to. If we couldn't find it that day, he'd go to hell, I'll call them out, 1-800-Radiator. And they would, 9 times out of 10, it was wrap quality didn't fit. Like if you'd look at it and you go, this is garbage, but he'd go, oh, they're awesome. They do that a lot. Greg McBee, can you explain the differences between an ATEC and a BTEC in case people don't know the differences? ATEC is top of the line. He's going to be able to diagnose pretty much any kind of system. You know, he's going to be able to do any kind of a repair within reason. Communications problems, diagnostics, etc., etc. A BTEC is going to be more of basic diagnostics and parts replacement. A BTEC is going to be just doing the more basic repairs, or not basic repairs, but more basic diagnostics and hanging parts. They're not going to be testing generally network systems. They're not going to be dealing with complex diagnostic problems, etc. It's just skill difference, basically. James Jones, can you do a video for us in the industry to explain what the lines are drawn between GSC, BCA techs? I myself am a BTEC, but I'm also the main guy that does diag. Comes down to when our BTEC is out. I could, maybe I'll do a video on that. It's the problem is they're not really hard and fast lines. As they're very gray lines. Like you're talking about doing diagnostics when the ATEC's out. Well, that would put you at a high BTEC, not a low BTEC. So there's a lot of gray area in there as well. But yeah, I could do a video on that. Raymond Lopez, learning and diagnosing electrical system is the best go-to. Over here, we are short on techs to do electrical. I can't say that enough. If you're not understanding electrical systems, you're going to have problems going forward. Rich Tom went from a bi-monthly shop, pay shop to weekly shop, Wednesday to Wednesday, and paid on Friday. Makes me stay in a humble mode. Makes me stay in a hustle mode. Sorry. Hey, so what's up? Which compression gauge do you recommend? I was told SnapOn isn't complete as other kits. Lang or OTC. The SnapOn kit, they have two flavors of it, if I believe right. The second kit, the higher end kit, has all the adapters you should need. You can also buy the hoses individually, which I think is what I did, because I've got a Snap-on one. I bought the kit mostly because of the hoses. They use hydraulic hose in their thing, and they're really stiff because I've got an old Matco that I hated. But you can buy the hoses as well. Enoch, I worked at a Toyota dealer for 2 weeks. They would not let any apprentice work on anything that is not an oil or tire change without a licensed tech watching you work. If you're up in Canada, that's pretty much common up there. Bill Drift, how did you get along with Tim G from Florida at your shop? I got along with Tim great. The only complaint that everybody had against him was he bugged the crap out of you on ETA. But other than that, he sold a lot of work for me. Coexist, B-Tech wants to be an A-Tech, yes. Hopefully. A lot of B-Techs don't. A lot of B-Techs are complacent and want to stay where they're at. Now, Tim's a cool dude. I was sad to see him leave. I mean, honestly, I was sad to see him leave. Because he did. He sold a lot of work for me. They have no time watching you work since flat rate. There was an apprentice there. 10 years still oil. God, that sucks. James Jones, I'm only asking because our ATEC isn't big on cart and CAN bus or electrical diags that involve current draw. Really? Then that ATEC part is not true. Because that's pretty much what you have to be doing nowadays. Well, I'm glad you're getting fairly decent at it. Awesome. You're going to training. You know, that's cool. You're probably more of an ATEC than he is if he can't do CAN bus or electrical. Just saying. How about fuel pressure test kits? Sir, punch you over here. The Sir kit's really good. That one's really good. The Lang Tools one is decent. I have this Matco kit, which is good, but I've had the same hose have to be replaced multiple times. But if you get this Sir kit, that's really good. And then you can get additional hoses in this kit, but that's a good tester kit. It's fairly affordable. Chris Dorback, I graduated from being an ATEC. There's another level. It's called following a dream of being a naive idiot and owning a shop. If you like to fix cars, don't do it. Why I don't. James Jones, I know I'm on the higher end of B8 entry ATEC. Just thinking maybe I should, as for may pay due to this. Yes, you should. I'm guessing Bill Drift, you worked with him down at the Chevy GMC dealership down there. Charles Jones says, do you use pressure transducers? I have a Snap-on one. It's okay. Every time I wanted to buy the Pico version, it was sold out, and I haven't bought it since. Yeah, James Jones, like I said, I've used that thing for years. And the only problem I have is one of the hoses that I use the most blows out after so many uses of it, which it's warranty, and I bought an extra one, so it's not a big deal, and they're not that expensive. You know, the hoses are not that expensive. But yeah, I use a Snap-on every now and then. For the longest time, it was really hard to justify it because we weren't seeing base engine problems, you know? And if you've done, especially in cylinder testing, it's not a easy thing to stay. There's almost art to reading the waveforms that if you're not doing it all the time, really hard to stay up on it. You know, you have to think about it and bring it all back up. But if, I wasn't, every now and then I'd have a car come in with an engine knock. Okay, well, it needs an engine. I'm not going to do any testing with that. So I have never bought the transducer. Rich Thumb. Yeah. If you've not moved from an oil rack in 6 months, try moving to another employer. Pay should be the same. Yeah. Easy E, do the tool truck guys make good money? My Snap-on dealer shut down his business, said he wasn't making any money. Some of them do. It comes down a lot to the route you get. And in that specific area, how well people in that area pay, buy, etc. Because you're limited to an area, and if you have a bad area to work, it's hard to stay making money. And then SnapOn, for instance, will just auto ship you a toolbox that decide that you need, even though you didn't order it, and put you on credit hold because it exceeded your credit balance. Because, you know, you have a credit with SnapOn, you can only order so much before you pay it off. And that was what put one of my SnapOn dealers out of business. Is he literally kept getting shipped toolboxes that he couldn't sell. He got a pink toolbox. My old SnapOn dealer straight up hated Epic toolboxes. Hated them. His disdain for them was very evident. And they shipped him a triple bank toolbox, which I thought about buying, by the way, but he sold it to somebody else, but he hated that toolbox. And he was on credit hold for several months, and he finally had to get out of it. So it varies considerably. Zach, would you call ASE's a qualification? Here in New Zealand, as an apprentice, it takes about 3 to 4 years to become qualified doing theory and on-job assessments. ASEs are really not qualifications. It is a knowledge test. It's not really, if you're good at taking tests, it's really easy to pass them. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Good enough to pass the test. Let me put it that way. For me, ASE shows a commitment to the industry versus your actual skill. You care about this as your profession more than how much it proves how good you are. So, but it's a basic test. Enoch, shop foreman is going back to China in 3 years, and he find that I do much quicker since I don't have to go around and find who is using the boss's tools. They need and have to wait. Zach, do you have an AES wave you activate? No, I don't. Kind of want one though. Lucas Sutton, what toolbox brand do you recommend? Matco, SnapOn, Cornwell. Personally, I prefer Matco. I think they look better drawer placements and that kind of stuff. SnapOn, unfortunately, has those stupid skinny ass drawers that you can't fit anything in. That literally kept me from buying another Master Series because those drawers are more or less useless. Quality wise, Matco, SnapOn, and Mac all make really good toolboxes. Cornwell, I know How To Automotive has a Cornwell toolbox. They seem good. I don't have personal experience with their current brand as far as how good they hold up, so I can't speak to that. I've worked with people that have SnapOn, Matco, Mac toolboxes, so I can speak to that. Those all hold up very well as far as construction. I'm talking all premium, by the way, not the lower brands or the lower levels of those brands. Comes down to the quality is more or less the same. Comes down to the color combination you want, because let's be honest, you want a cool looking toolbox. And the drawer configuration you care about. If you look at my videos on my Revel versus my Revel X toolboxes, you can see I have very different drawer configuration on my Revel because I wanted it more for bulk storage. And that's really important when it comes down to a toolbox is it going to fit your needs? So look at that more than the brand. Aspire, been building my own waveforms for Cummings powered school buses. That's awesome. Back it up. I'm going to tell you that right now. Get a SSD, portable SSD. Back it up to that. Back it up to your home desktop. Back up those files, because you do not want to lose those, because a hard drive fails, a laptop fails. Been there, done that. Raymond Lopez, everyone, it's a good practice on old machinery in our shop. We text practice. Awesome. Raymond Lopez. Greg McBee, good dealership, good start for new techs. Good training at most. Yes, I've talked about that many times. Get into it. You know, if you can't get into the industry any other way, go work at a dealership for a while. Take all the training they'll give you, get your start in the industry, and move on to an independent shop from there. You don't have to stay there. Chris, I appreciate it. Said we had a good stream tonight. That's really well. Appreciate it. Raymond, everyone is good practice on the junk cars. Our shop practice on the monthly basis. Cool. I went in blind for ASE 10 years ago and became a master tech. Well, like I said, it shows more of a commitment to the industry than your actual skill. Because I firmly believe if you're really good at taking tests, you read the questions carefully, most mediocre techs can pass it if they're good at taking tests. And I'm not picking on ASE. They have to do it that way. But if you read the questions really well, it'll point you in a direction that's probably right. Enoch, have a good one. Appreciate it. Fine. Leave me for another YouTube channel. Go away. I don't care. Aspire been neck deep in Picoscope. The industry isn't ready, but will be in the next 10 years. That's awesome. Yeah, no, we gotta be ready for communication problems. All right, we got any more questions? James Lee Jr., what's up? Back up the backup, yes. 3, 2, 1 solution. 3, 2, 1 solution. Really, it's really important. And I've lost a couple. I've lost it on my original Modus. I lost my waveform inventory there. Because there was no way to get it off from CE to Windows. And then I lost it on my Veris Edge because I sent it in for service and because my scope quit working and then it freaking died. And then my hard drive died on my laptop that I used for my Pico. So I lost all those waveforms again. I didn't have a backup. So backup. You want to have a backup that's available locally. You want to have a backup that's off-site, different from where you'll keep your laptop, and you want to have a third backup. So, Clone Trooper just went to a Mazda dealership. They make you master in 1 year, barely any training, no ASEs. Damn. Okay. Never thought of backups. Yeah. No, you need to back up. Charles Jonestone, what do you think of the Matco's 80s line of toolboxes? I'm not that nostalgic. I really, like I'm in the tech space, and like one of the channels I watch, Epox Vox, is really, 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 really into VHS video and grain and making it look like it's an old TV show. And I freaking despise it. I enjoy his content, but hate his visuals. I really don't. I'm not nostalgic for the 80s. I'm not a really nostalgic person. You know, I remember, you know, like I grew up playing, you know, Miss Pac-Man. Well, you know, how many years later, I'm not going, this is an awesome game. I'm like, this is boring. Rich, I like the morning video drop. Starts the day off well. Appreciate it. But they look cool. So if you're into 80s stuff, they look cool. GS Miko, have you seen the long wrench that uses the short sockets on it? Will replace your long ratchet sockets. Pretty nice, but it's hard to get sometimes. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard about it. Greg McGee, a lot of takes, better with hands-on than on paper. Yeah, taking tests. Like I said, it's not a end-all be-all test of a technician's skills. You know, if you're knowledgeable about auto repair, you should be able to pass the test. You know, it's not like it's a very hard test to take. It's literally, you know, not super hard. I'm not talking about the L1, but the standard tests aren't that hard if you work on cars. So if you're decent at working on cars, you should be able to pass the AESCs. Like I said, it shows more about your commitment to the industry. James Lee Jr. got a car with PO 55, PO 455, 71, 412, and basically a lot of evap codes. Found a leak on the intake manifold gasket. My O2 sensor downstream is reading 99%. Sometimes customer states it shuts off when applying brakes at a stoplight. It's a Volkswagen Beetle 2007. 2.8 or 1.8. Say hello to Luber Goober for us. If it's a 1.8, it probably has a what you call it? It might have a brake booster that's going bad, but more than likely you're going to hate it. Oh. 2.5. Okay. Yeah. 2.7. Yeah, okay, that's different than what I was thinking of. So 2.5. I hate VW. You might have a purge valve that is sticking open. Brake chamber may be bad. But usually when you have a PO 171 and a PO 455, you probably have a stuck open purge valve. So that how I test a purge valve is disconnect the hose going back to the evap system, unplug it, crank it up, let it run, check for vacuum. If you've got vacuum at it with the disconnected, the only thing hooked to it is the vacuum line going to the engine, and you've got vacuum on that valve, it is dead. Replace it. That should not cause it to stall in most cases, but you could have a throttle body that's gummed up, or you could have a map sensor that is skewed as well. Secondary air valve for the PO412 is, oh God, this car's got multiple problems, dude. PO412 is an EGR valve or secondary air injection fault, which could cause stalling. Generally, it's the combi valve on the back of the engine. Generally, but you need to test the vacuum pump, make sure it works. Because if the vacuum pump doesn't come on, that you'll set that code. But if it does and produces pressure, probably the combi valve or a clogged port in the head, which happens, especially if it's got high mileage on it. Check the valve cover for the diaphragm being blown out in it. Zach, have you made any of your own electrical diagnostic tools? I talked about it earlier. I have a O2 sensor test light for Honda specific heater faults. Disconnect the O2 sensor, plug it in. If light lights up, the heater circuit is good. Replace the O2 sensor, test lights in various bulb sizes for different loads. That's probably the biggest ones. I've made harnesses and stuff like that, test leads. Charles Johnstone, is it better to buy quality over quantity when starting out? High volume, high use tools, buy quality. If it's going to be a tool that you're probably not going to use very often, go quantity is my best advice. If you're going to, you're buying an SAE set of sockets and you're probably going to use them every 6 months on a weird thing or a press or whatever, buy cheap. But if you're talking about your tools you're going to use every day, buy quality. That's where I was heading with, bad wheel wear, but they refused to fix it. Oh, yo, joy. Hey, listen to this rattle on this. What do you think? Just joking, yeah. Oh my God, what a pile of junk, James. Wheel bearing so bad it will move 4-inch back and forth. That is undrivable, dude. Yeah, I'd probably go ahead and park that and say, I'm not test driving this. I'll tell a funny story and then we'll go ahead and end this stream. Had a customer that came in with bad brakes, bad brakes. Like I almost hit the shop door, like bad brakes. And I was just idling in the parking lot and could not stop. Pulled it in, inspected, calipers blown out because brake pad was gone. Backed it out, wrote it up for front calipers, rear calipers, brake flush, rotors, pads, and all that. And and they picked it up. I said, this should not be driven. And they drove left out of there. I watched them leave. I'm like, they drove the car out of here. And they drove back and like, oh yeah, fix it. Yes, as teenage driver drives it, yeah. Speedy Speedster, 2-week or 1-week notice. Depends on the situation. I generally give a 2-week notice. I've never had a problem with a 2-week notice. Every time I've ever done a 2-week notice, I work out my 2 weeks and then go home. or move on. But if it's a shop that you don't think they're going to honor your 2-week notice, give them a 1-week notice. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. We've been on for 2 hours exactly, so I'm gonna go ahead and head out. So I appreciate everybody stopping by. So as always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.